Oh, bother.
Hello my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Tuesday Newsday. I'm still Yin Yang Total War, and I am just so excited to be back here with all of you in the new year. Now, I have been on hiatus for a couple weeks, but that has not stopped the news train from rolling. We have a bunch of stuff to catch up on, so let's get right into it. And of course, guys, we're going to be kicking off things with Arbay. So, looking right here, we have Fatendira. We're not going to dive too deep into her lore today, just because there's a good little bit there. But I will say that she is an orphaned individual. Her family was killed in front of her. She was raised to be an assassin, and then she went back and killed all the people who killed her family. Only to find out that it didn't give her much fulfillment. Kind of a Arya Stark story, if you're a big Game of Thrones fan. That being said, enough about her lore, let's talk about her faction effects. She has her own unique mechanic, which is going to be Fatendira's allegiance. She can either side with the Tomb King god Tatakanut, or with the people of Arbay to earn rewards. Now, I don't believe that you take negatives for siding with either, but if you side, like if you favor the Tomb Kings, you get special units, and I believe it's the same on the other side. If Numus is captured, honor your alliance and return Numus's capital to gain faction-wide bonuses. However, betray Numus and you will receive temporary penalties. So there you go. You can overthrow the Tomb Kings that you worship, but it is going to bring you issues. She has a plus 25 relationship with Numas, plus 10 with the other Tomb Kings. She can recruit certain Tomb King units, and of course she has a control plus 3. That's pretty standard. Here are recruitment rank for assassins, because she was raised by assassins, and upkeep minus 15% for nomad trackers, Giselles, Southland warriors, camel lancers, desert riders, camel archers, and camel Giselles. That is more detailed than most of the vanilla factions, guys. That being said, it's just the kind of work that you expect out of the team over at OVN. Now, her lord effects, she has an ambush success chance of 25%, ammunition plus 20%, and stalk for basically for the more tribal Arabians, right? Moving on, we have the Golden Magus. Now, if you don't know who he is, he comes from what's the name of that game? It's the battleship version of Warhammer. Fleetmaster? I think it's Fleetmaster. Anyway, he was on the side against the Vampire Coast. He was on he was under the Jago Roth alliance, the same one that Aranessa is part of. Not that they did any justice to that storyline when they came out with the Vampire Coast DLC, but hey, if the if the company won't do it, the modders will. So let's talk about his faction effects. His unique mechanic is going to be Sultan of the Seas. He can destroy, sack, hunt, treasure, and raid to build a reputation at sea versus other Vampire Coast factions and collect sea shanties. So he's going to be basically a Vampire Coast faction. He's going to play a lot like Aranessa. And if you play Aranessa with the Sartosa mod, he's probably going to play even more like her, because he's using actual humans and not undead. He has access to a slave mechanic, which is just tons of fun. He's got a diplomatic relations of plus 50 with the Pirates of Sartosa, so obviously you're going to want to be friendly with them. Be a really cool thematic multiplayer campaign if you wanted to do that. He has income from sacking settlements plus 20%, income from slaves plus 5%, immune to high seas, reef, and storm attrition for all armies, and that's a powerful one, especially for a seabound faction. He has access to shipbuilding for his own personal army. He enables flaming and magical attacks for Corsairs. And surprisingly enough, it doesn't really lean into his relationship with the Jinn. He's a big Jinn guy, so I'm surprised that he doesn't have any kind of special effects for Jinn. But still, if you're gonna play him thematically, definitely use a lot of Jinn. And if you don't know what Jinn are, they're genies, right? Just the more proper name for them. And finally, we're gonna look at Sultan Jafar. So Sultan Jafar comes with a lot more negatives than the other two, which is thematic because, I mean, out of the three, he's definitely the bad guy. Sultan Jafar, if you don't know Araby lore, Sultan Jafar is one of the, well, I shouldn't even say one of the, he's the premier sultan. He led an invasion much in the style of the Islamic invasion into Europe. He led an invasion taking most of, if not all of Estalia. I think he pushed into Talea as well before the Bretonnians and Empire formed a crusade and pushed him back out, pushing him all the way into Araby and eventually killing him when his troops all but abandoned him. So looking at his faction effects, Jafar's revenge is going to be his personal mechanic. He's going to try to get revenge by uniting all of Araby and conquering all of Estalia, Talea, and Bretonnia. Each milestone is going to provide various rewards. So that's a really cool one, and something we're definitely going to have to take a look at when we get around to jumping into a campaign with him. He has access to the slave mechanic. He has a minus 40 relationship with the Tomb Kings, minus 40 with all of the Bretonnian Crusaders. And then we've got your standard ones, the Lord Recruit rank +2, research rate +10%, income from trade tariffs +25%. Who's going to trade with you? I have no clue, because all of these people don't like you. He has the passive ability Guardian for Palace Guard units. That's going to be a big one. They're going to so I mean, if you want to build a thematic army for him, obviously you're going to want to use them. He has upkeep minus 50% for Palace Guard units, only leaning into that thematic army build, and plus 10% charge bonus. Now, something that this doesn't tell you about Jafar is that he is actually a Jinn as well. He can transform from his human form into his Jinn form, and let me tell you, it is devastating in battle. But that's going to be it for Araby. Let's jump into our next piece of news. All right, and jumping back in with something I can't even believe that I missed, because I believe it came out right before I went on hiatus. It's going to be SCM's Legendary Campaign Compilation Packs, or Legendary Characters Compilation Pack, however you want to say it. This one is going to be for Immortal Empires. I believe some of them will convert over to Old World, but I don't want you to hold that against me if that is not the case. So the reason I'm out here is because these characters are spread all throughout the different races. So we're just going to go down the list and check them out one by one. So starting with Khorne, we have Arbay the Undefeated. Now he has the unique mechanic of Destroyer of Khorne. That's going to give him victories that provide momentum and subsequent boons. He's got Khorne's Curse as well, meaning when he is defeated, Khorne's punishment will be unrelenting. I would love to see exactly what that means. I imagine it's a ton of debuffs, but that is something we'll definitely cover when we take a look at his campaign later this year. Now, he has hero capacity +2 for Cultist, attribute of Devastating Flanker for Hounds and Khorne units, and his Lord effects are the Destroyer of Khorne, Khorne's Curse, and melee attack plus 10 for all units. He's just corn all the time. Now, if you don't know who this guy is, he is one of the oldest corn champions, if he's not the oldest corn champion, who did not ascend to demonhood. He is also one of the only characters, if not the only character that I know of, that rides upon a, oh gosh, what is it? Not a warhound, but the big daddy warhounds. I can't remember their names. There we go. Fleshhound of Corn. He rides one, and honestly, he's just a really cool character. Now, in lore, he has never been defeated, hence the name, Arbay the Undefeated. So, if you're bored and you're wanting to just kill for no reason, I say definitely download this mod and go check him out. Now, let's take a look at our next character. He is going to be in the Dwarfs. There he is.
Send me to vengeance.
And it's going to be Burlock Damnenson. Now, I don't know a ton about him, but I do know that he is a master engineer. His faction effects are going to be pioneers. He has access to various legendary adventurers through a forge mechanic, and I would love to show you those guys, but I'd have to go into like 3 more different screens, and we've got a lot to cover today. He's got hero recruit rank plus 3 for master engineers, construction time minus 25% for all engineering chain buildings, range plus 10. He has explosive missile damage for artillery units, and hero capacity plus 2 for master engineers. So he's just master engineers all the time. If you can see on the map, he is going to be starting down in End. So definitely a fresh start. And before I forget, let's jump back over to Arbay real quick, so I can show you where he starts as well. Oh, that's the wrong character. Oh, we're in the wrong race. Let's try that again. Arbay is also going to be starting down and End. He's going to be starting at the southern tip. I believe there is a Cornate faction right here as well, if I recall correctly. However, like I said, we will jump into his campaign in the future just to check him out and what he's all about. The next one is going to be another new arrival to the subcontinent of End. If I can find them, there we go.
My blade is ready.
The Bretonnians, and he is going to be Alphonse Dolmance. Now, I don't know a lot about this character either. This was the first time that I had ever seen him, but he is a Slaneshi corrupted Bretonian, which means that he's going to, of course, get Bretonian units as well as Slaneshi ones. He's also going to have access to Slaneshi's temptation mechanic. So, his faction effects: wine-producing buildings provide unique global bonuses. He does not have access to chapel buildings, but instead has access to Slanesh sorcerers, pleasurable acts, and replenishment via captives. He has a hero capacity plus 2 for chaos sorcerers of Slanesh, and speed plus 15% for all armies. Now, I don't know if you understand how big that is, but that is huge. He has plus 10 devotees per turn, the ability Heartbreaker, which you can see what that does right here, and then melee attack plus 10 for himself, because he's a Slaneshi character and he's going to be selfish. Now, if you didn't get a chance to see before, this is where he's going to be starting on the western coast of End. Now, let's move on to the next one, and it is going to be a Dark Elf character.
I will have my vengeance.
There he is, Durioth Hellbane. Now, this guy is one of Malekith's most trusted admirals. He's going to be right there on par with Lokir Fellheart, although probably not quite as successful. I want to say that he holds a seat on Malekith's council, but I don't want to mislead you on that, so definitely go look up that lore if you have time. Now, his faction effects are going to be Lord Recruit rank plus 3, Black Arc Corsairs, Handbows, use repeater crossbows instead, which is very cool. He has less sea lane duration than anybody else, I believe. It's -1 turn for him. I don't believe that
Krakenlord of
Lokir gets that. No, he does not. So, whatever Lokir gets, this guy's a little bit better. And then he has the focus shot ability for all Black Art characters. He has access to shipbuilding, but recruitment and construction are only possible while stationing inside of a settlement or sea. I'll have to look into that one because that one reads kind of funky to me. Melee attack +8 for Black Guard and Corsair units, and then immune to high seas and reef plus storm attrition. So that's all very strong. And of course, he's going to be starting with a large swath of territory. And guys, this is actually something that I would really love to see other factions do, especially from the vanilla factions. They should be starting off with different kinds of starting situations. And that is a whole subject for a Let's Talk in the near future. So let's not get too far bent out of shape about that and move on. Now our next character is going to be one that I accidentally hovered over earlier, and that is going to be Ingrid Deathsword. He's going to be starting up in the north of Warhammer Korea. He is going to be a Archaon loyalist. Now, if you don't know who Ingrid Deathsword is, he was the right hand of Azavar Kul. He is a big name and a pretty juicy model. Just taking a look at him, I mean, good lord. I don't know if I'd want to fight him as Archaon, but I'm sure Archaon would overtake him. Which is proven by his whole faction gimmick. He is the Ever-Chosen's headhunter. Gifting conquered settlements to Archaon provides shared bonuses with the war host of the apocalypse. Now, if you're looking for another thematic co-op campaign, this is definitely going to be one that you want to try out. Kind of bringing everyone in under Archaon's banner. Just, I mean, why not? I think that would be a really cool undivided campaign. So if anyone wants to join me for one of those, just holler at me over on Discord, right? He's got Loyalist. He starts with an Unbreakable Pact with the War Host of the Apocalypse, which is great. Melee attack +8 for melee infantry units for all of his armies. That's huge. +1% strength for each currently vassalized faction. I'm kind of confused about that one. The wording's just weird there. So I think that he gets +1% weapon strength for all vassals under his forces and the war host of the Apocalypse forces. But let me know if I'm mistaken on that. The ability Deathsword's Fury, I'll hover over that so you can see it. And then weapon strength +15% when fighting against Kislev, where he was unfortunately defeated with Azavar Kul hundreds of years ago. Let's move on to the next one, which is going to be an ogre this time. If I can find the ogres. I have too many factions, guys, too many factions. But I'm never gonna quit, so where'd they go? I know my alphabet. There they are. All right. So we have here Hrothjog. I think that's how you pronounce that. I'm not sure. He is actually a man-eater. I haven't heard too much about him. He's not Gulfag. That's the only man-eater that I really know off the top of my head. But it says here that he's a legendary man-eater, comfortably sitting on his improvised throne, collecting the ultimate toll from anyone who passes through his valley. His valley is going to be just south of Grease's Goldtooth. So he's going to have all of this trade that happens between the kingdoms of Ind and Cathay. Taking a look at his lore details, we have the Master Mercenary. Contractors may spawn after successful battles in enemy territories, which is very cool. Gonna have to take a deeper dive into that. Recruitment cost -20% for man-eater units. Unit mass +5%, all armies. Melee attack plus 10% for man-eater units, all armies. Neutral troops entering Hrothjog's region will be forced to pay a toll, which is very, very interesting. Really got to check this guy out now. And enemy leadership -7. So, this guy is pretty strong. And this next one is another one that I had never heard of, but I'm very excited to check out. He is going to be with the Tomb Kings, and his name is going to be Lord Karadaman? I'm trying not to call him a vitamin, but that's what he looks like. Very cool, very cool. Once again, another guy that I have never heard of in my life. I have quite a bit of research to do jumping in with these guys, but that said, he is going to be starting in Nippon. Now, I believe that Chaos Rugby had already started a Tomb King faction over in Nippon, which makes this even cooler. So, Nippon is going to be a battleground here in the near future, I'm sure, with the actual Nipponese joining at some point through a mod, if not through Creative Assembly themselves, although I doubt it after the shellacking of the year that they just had. Looking at his lore details, all generic lords are going to have access to the empowered Batak of the God of the Sky and Justice skill. Don't know what that means, but I'm encouraged, or I'm pretty interested in seeing what it is. Unit capacity +4 for Carrion. Kiritaman can earn additional rewards by reconquesting the oh my, wow. I guess, yeah, I've got a lot of reading to do on Nippon. I guess this used to be a Tomb King realm somehow. Melee defense +6 for lords and embedded heroes. Ability, guys, I'm sorry for butchering that, but I'll just let you see it yourself. And then +20% speed for carrion units. So, of course, this guy is going to be big on the flyers, and speed +20% for himself. Now, moving back over into Chaos territory, let's look at Norska. Norska is going to be where a ton of these guys are going to be hanging out. So, and not actual Norska itself, but they've kind of, instead of Norska, they've done like a Northern Tribes thing. So somebody was listening when that idea was being tossed around over on the Great Book of Grudges channel, I guess. This guy, Start the Link, is going to be starting up in the northwest of the Northern Waste. I'm sorry, that's not the Northern Waste. That's the Eastern Steppes, excuse me. He is going to be in charge of the Tokmars, one of the Kurgan tribes. Again, this is another smaller character that I've never heard of, but the more that we flesh these guys out, the more characters that we get out of, you know, kind of out of left field. I like it. They're not completely made up, but, you know, they're small enough to where they're not the big names of the Warhammer world. And I really appreciate that we have the chance to know who they are. So, he's got monster pins. He's going to be a lot like Rekharth. He can capture a variety of hideous beasts and send them into battle. He's the unmatched hunter. Link will directly face the monsters hidden within the Arcanum. So, he's going to have that same standard Norscan monster hunt ability. He's got the recruit rank +3 for Marauder Javelins, and the ability Kurgan Bred for all Marauder Horseman units. And you can see what that does right there. He's got a speed of +10 for all armies, which is, again, huge. They're really leaning into this plus for everybody, right? Plus melee, plus defense, plus speed. He has armor piercing missile damage +25% for Marauder Javelins in his army, and then a range of +10%. So, if you are looking for a shooty Chaos faction that is not Tzeentchian, here you go. Moving on, let's take a look at... Let's stick with Norska for now. We're going to take a look at Thorgar, the Blooded One. Now, Thorgar, I believe, if if his name doesn't give it away, is a Coronate worshiper, although he's not dressed up in red. Let's take a look at his faction effects. So he's got Unbridled Ambition, finish Thorgar's quest, and allow him to ascend into demonhood. And I do believe that this guy actually does get a Demon Prince model. He has upkeep minus 25% for mammoth units. Finally, someone who should actually have mammoths instead of Wulfric, who it doesn't even really make sense because he wasn't a mammoth guy, he was a duelist guy. Weapon strength plus 10% when fighting against warriors of chaos, demons of chaos, chaos dwarfs, and Norska. Campaign movement range plus 20% after winning a battle, and the ability Thorgar's Pendulum. We've also got an actual Tzeentchian in the form of Volric Clawhand. He is another Kurgan warlord, and he's going to be bringing the following faction effects. Oh, and let me, before I forget, Thorgar is going to be starting down here. This is going to be a battlefield, you guys. These Kurgans do not like each other, so just keep that in mind. And as you can see, Volric is going to be starting here. So you've already got 1, 2, and 3 lords battling it out for dominance in the north. He has Raven Blessed, so he may gather grimoires and use these to receive boons of Tzeentch and Chaos. Tzeentch is chosen. Volric will directly face monsters hidden within the Book of the Arcanum. Again, that's just the standard. I believe it's just the standard. Dedicated to Tzeentch, may only devote himself to Tzeentch. So if you're looking for a Norscan Tzeentch run, this is going to be him. Has access to the Changing of Ways. Forces receive bonuses for high winds of magic, which is obvious because he's Tzeentchian. Melee attack plus 8 for Tzeentch Marauder units. Ability Whispers of the Raven, and physical resistance of 10% for his entire army, which is fantastic. I don't see that they get barriers, but I would be willing to bet that they do. Yeah, it looks like he's going to get a mixture of Tzeentchian units anyway, so just something to keep in mind. And finally, we're going to be looking at Valbrand Fireblade. I think he's the last one. Okay, nope, we've got one more. We'll come back to him. So Valbrand is going to be starting over in Warhammer Korea. And apparently he's a slaver. So he has access to bloodletting because he is Coronate. He is a slaver. He may sacrifice slaves to receive powerful boons to Khorne and Chaos. Khorne's chosen. Valbrand will directly face monsters hidden within the Arcanum. We already know about that. Valbrand's Horde. Capital techs will be unlocked by raising capitals for Khorne instead of occupying them. Dedicated to Khorne, he may only devote himself to Khorne, of course, and he has no access to the raiding camp stance, which is very different. Unit mass plus 5% for every current war, but that's only for him. And then Valbrand's Eruption, and I'll let you take a look at what that is. And guys, he's going to be able to recruit some Coronate guys. So if you're looking for a more interesting, and guys, this is if you have enough players, of course, but if you're looking for a more interesting, like, all-out brawl, you can definitely go with these guys. They're all right here. You got a Coronate champion, a Tzeentchian champion. This guy's more of an undivided. And then, of course, getting back over to Bjorg Bearstruck. So, Bjorg is going to be the leader of the... I can't pronounce that. I thought he was the Bearsling tribe, but apparently I was wrong. Um, so he is bear stricken. Earth sign creatures are drawn to the primal essence of Urslo and may be corrupted. So he can get he can get feral bears as well as his own chaos touch bears, which is fantastic. I definitely want to check those out. So he's got bear stricken. He's got furs as a resource just everywhere he goes, so that's a good trading resource. He has the Mark of the Bear. That doesn't do what I thought it was going to do, but he can transform into a bear, and it is an awesome transformation. Recruit rank +3 for Marauder Hunter units, and +15% upkeep for Skinwolf units, but he gets his own Bearmen, so you don't really need the Skinwolves. But if you're looking for a cool co-op or versus campaign, maybe play Bjorg Bearstruck and Rafford the Wolf, and let the Proto Beastmen or the transformative Beastmen take over the world together. So weapon strength +20% for bear units. Spirit of the Great Bear, and that's where he can transform right there. Okay, and I didn't realize that this one was going to go for so long, but let's keep on going. I totally missed one when I was looking at Korn earlier, and just look at this model, guys. He is fantastic. So, this guy is Lord Slorth. He is the champion of the Bastion Stair. Once again, this is one that I have not heard a ton about, but if you pull up the fandom page for Warhammer and you just look up Korn characters, it's just list after list after list. So there is a ton of reading there to do, so I apologize that I am not up on his lore, but he is going to be starting down in Koresh. So if you're looking for a Koreshi playthrough, this is going to be your guy. He has the ultimate challenger: hunt down your past fellow knights and sacrifice them to Korn for significant bonuses. Wound recovery time -2 for all characters. Armor +10 for infantry units in all armies. Ability: Bastions Chosen for the Bloodletter units. Charge bonus +25% for all units in army. All right, and moving on, let's jump away from chaos for just a moment if we can. And we're going to be taking a look over at the Wood Elves.
Protector of the Oak.
And before I lose him, there he is. Skolon? Sorry. I hope no lore masters are watching this as I butcher these names. He is, once again, guys, I'm failing you on this lore because he is one that I've never heard of. He definitely looks really cool, or she. I believe that's a he. Yes, far away from the High Elf realm. So he's a High Elf. Okay, he's an exiled High Elf. I did not realize that. So, Embrace of the Cold. He receives bonuses for entering regions with a frozen climate and magical forest. Spell Singers and Spell Weavers have access to the Lore of Ice, which is very cool. Casualty replenishment rate +10% for all armies. Weapon strength +10% for Eternal Guard and Dryad units, all armies. Upkeep -25% for all elf units. He has the ability of Frozen Fury and Atlas Rangers for Wood Elf missile units. And you can see on the map, he is going to be starting pretty far in the south. I want to say that that is the Lost Isles of Elithis right there. And a great place for an exiled Wood Elf, or exiled High Elf, to be leading a colony of Wood Elves. Very interesting, and I'm definitely looking forward to jumping into more of his lore. Now, let's take a look back at Chaos for just a moment. We're going to be looking at Nurgle this time, and we're going to be looking at Ograt's Demon Spew. He's going to be starting up in the east, just joining the battle for the steppes, which really fun if you ask me. I'm definitely looking forward to having you guys vote on who we want to play as up in the north before we come down and, you know, destroy everybody else. So he is the aspirant gardener. Ograt seeks the Rotfather's favor by cleansing the unfaithful from his gardens. He has allegiance points gained plus 25% for alliances and vassalage with Nurgle. So any kind of friendship with Nurgle that this guy can get is good for him. What's unfortunate is that Nurgle factions tend not to last that long. Nurgle corruption in adjacent provinces plus 2 for all provinces, and recruitment rank plus 2 for Pox Riders, all armies. Diplomatic relations plus 25 with other Norscan factions, and the ability Ograt's Riders, and I'll let you take a look at what that does. Alright, so moving on, and I think that was the last of our Chaos Brethren. We have an actual High Elf. So let's go take a look at the High Elves.
We must
and it's going to be High Mage Torinubar. Now, this gentleman is the keeper of this strait right here, and I can't remember what this strait is, but he is, the Straits of Caliph. So he is going to be in charge of that. He's also big on trade. As you can see, window to the east, engage in transit trade by buying and selling eastern commodities and western commodities, which can also be used to bolster your troops. Whenever you complete a convoy journey to an Order faction settlements, so he's going to be bringing convoys as well, you'll get an intrapot building. Not sure exactly what that means, but I'm looking forward to trying it out. Diplomatic relations minus 50% with Skaven, and a maximum number of active convoys plus 1. So he can have multiple convoys running around, which is very cool. Speed plus 5% for all units, and then income from ports plus 5%. And I believe our final faction, let me double check on that. Yes. So our final faction is going to be probably the one I'm most excited for, because this one has very little chance of ever joining the wider game in vanilla, at least, but is such a cool character. And that is going to be Zacharias, the ever-living, if I can actually find him. There he goes. So Zacharias is going to be starting actually in the northern edge of Koresh, which is very different from his normal location, which is going to be in the north of the Empire, but still a very cool one. Doesn't place him too close to another modded faction by Mixu, in the form of Dieter Helschnick, who also likes to hang out up here. So let's take a look at his lore details. Now, if you don't know who Zacharias is, he is the preeminent oh gosh, not Strigoi? Necrarch? Yes, he's the preeminent Necrarch. So, he is the student of the man who killed, or of the vampire who killed Wasoron, whose name I am failing to forget, but he killed him. But this guy killed Wasoron, and then Zacharias killed him. And so Zacharias is now the de facto leader of the of their bloodline. But not that really matters to them, because Necrarchs don't hang out in groups. They're not like Blood Dragons or the Von Karstein. But Zacharias is able to collect the Books of Nagash while on his journey for necromantic lore. So he's going to have that mechanic. He's got the Winds of Magic Power Reserve capacity plus 15 for all armies, which is fantastic. You're going to be outperforming a lot of other magic-based factions just right off the jump. Weapon strength plus 15% when fighting against humans. A personal wound recovery time -2. Cooldown -15% to Spirit Leech. And the Sycophant of Life, which I'll let you read that right now. All right, and for the next bit of news, we have the return of Snek to the modding community. Now, if you don't know who that is, Snek is a very talented modder who has brought a ton of variants to the Empire, to Kislev, and I believe some others, but don't hold me to that. He's also the person who brought us the Guns of the Empire and Guns of the Dawi mods, I do believe. But this is my favorite project of Snek's because it brings so many more variants. Now, if you're like me and you like to roleplay with your armies, you like to make thematic builds, you don't want to build up this character, even if it's a generic character, you don't want to build up this character and then have 3 other people that are running around looking like them. So what this new update does to extra variants is, well, it adds a ton of variants to Bretonia. It's going to allow you to choose different kinds of Bretonian looks to have, right? So starting off, you're going to have just the standard, and then they keep changing from there. You can have all different kinds of them. So we can, oh, we can't look at him like that. I forgot about that. That was from an old mod, never mind. But you can see all the different kinds of knights that you can have, just, and this one kind of looks like Aragorn a little bit, just to play with, and it's fantastic. It's also going to affect the paladins, so I'm going to drop a link to that one in the bottom of this video, so definitely go check out this mod and welcome him back into the community. All right, and jumping in here with something that I would have loved to have covered when it came out, but I'm glad that I'm able to cover it now. We're again looking at the old world. So the old world has expanded once again, this time for the south and west, I believe. So as you can see here, we're going to have the Maelstrom and all of its surrounding reefs. I believe that these were supposed to be above the water, but maybe that's not the case, as they are reefs. And that's why we can see them on the map, but we can't actually see them. If I'm mistaken, then I will gladly admit that. But as you can see, you can very clearly see the Maelstrom itself as you zoom out. So I'm thinking that that is the point, but maybe I'm wrong on that. And hopefully we'll be able to actually see land masses as well. For names like the Rocky Isle, most of these are wrecks, but Ingus Island, I would think that some of these would be visible above the water, but again, I'm not sure. Coming down south, you can see that Arbay has joined us, as well as Arbay, the faction itself. Looks like he's suffering a little bit of attrition. I imagine that is from the Zinchian corruption that appears to be plaguing this area. Hopefully they're able to deal with that. Maybe a good idea for our Arbay campaign in the future to be on the old world map, but again, that's something for a later discussion. The Golden Megas is going to be over here, and as you can see, the entire south has really been fleshed out in this last update. You can see these straits right here as well. Something that you really just can't appreciate from the other from Immortal Empires, or even Immortal Empires Expanded. It's just the detail that goes into all this. And as you can see, as we continue east, it actually now stretches to Nagashazar. So if you play with the Nagash mod, you can now conquer the old world with the Lord of the Undead. Now, whether his mechanics actually work in this to make him the true Lord of the Undead, I can't imagine. Just because, well, I mean, there's no Black Pyramid, or at least to my knowledge, there's no Black Pyramid. So again, this is just a quick update on the old world. I can assure you that we will be playing an old world campaign here soon, but that's something that I'm going to discuss in my Let's Talk video coming up here on Thursday. So let's jump into our last bit of news and then we'll close it out. Just in case you missed this one, we have the Creative Assembly putting out a message, just a quick one, letting us know that they are back. They are working hard, and we're going to be getting some upcoming content here soon. I'm going to read through some parts of this real quick, and then we'll close things out. So, this is going to be from King Gabo. He is the lead community manager. So he says, "Hey folks, wishing you all a happy new year and hoping that the holidays gave you all the time you needed to spend away from life's campaign maps and instead committed to the heat of battle with the last of the seasonal biscuit pile. We ended last year by sharing how we're set to move forward in Total War, and before I get to talking about what to expect from us over the next few weeks, a quick message of thanks from us." So he goes on to just say thank you for not being jerks about everything, even though, they let us all down. So let's talk about Total War Pharaoh. This month is a big moment for Pharaoh, with January being the month we released Total War Pharaoh's free High Tide update. If you don't know about that, please go watch my last Let's Talk, or not Let's Talk, Tuesday Newsday about that one. They're going to be bringing us 2 new legendary lords, 2 new factions. But what you can't see from this one, and hopefully something that is going to be good news for Total War Pharaoh, is they talk about the actual Sea People's factions, not referring to just their leaders. So you have Laleos and Walwetes joining the roster as new faction leaders for the 2 new Sea People factions, Sheridan and Peliset, along all new features. So, that's going to be pretty exciting. I think at that point, when they release that, I'm probably going to go ahead and start a new Let's Play. I might actually dive into Pharaoh. If you can see me on Steam, then you can probably see that I have not paid much attention to Pharaoh, not because I think it's not a good game, but because I've had so much other stuff going on that has been eternally on the back burner since it released back in October. But let's talk about Total War Warhammer 3, because you guys clearly haven't had enough of that if you're still here after all of the modding stuff that I just talked about. But back in the lands of Total War Warhammer 3, we're just starting to put the finishing touches on our next hotfix release, which I didn't know was coming, which we'd like to get out to you within the next 2 weeks. We're largely expecting that this will be the only hotfix we release before patch 4.2 in February. So not long now before you see the additions to the Shadows of Change. And there have been leaks about that, and I think we're going to talk about that at some point, but I'm not sure. I imagine you guys have already gotten all the news on the leaks that you can probably stand. But patch 4.2 is where you can expect to see results of our work to ensure our DLCs meet your expectations through the introduction of even more content alongside changes and improvements to the base game itself, which we love that. Shortly after the hotfix is out, you'll start to hear directly from the game director Richard Aldridge on what patch 4.2 is bringing and how we've approached each of Shadow of Change's main factions in a series of blogs that covers this new content with much more detail. So from that, you can probably expect that we're going to see Shadows of Change update about the end of February. I can't imagine it's going to be in the middle, but it could be one of those releases that comes out around Valentine's Day. I remember when Isabella dropped around Valentine's Day. So, hey, maybe they do something special around that time and give us a new lovely legendary lord or hero as well as part of that. So, all of that being said, I would love to just keep talking, but I've run out of water, and you guys have probably run out of patience with this video. So, to all my friends, wherever you are, good morning, good evening, and good night. I appreciate you for sticking around, and I will see you in the next episode. Till then.